Hi there, good people of YouTube. If you're living in the northern part of the globe, you're starting to maybe feel the cold chill of fall starting to creep in. And today I was inspired to start listening to some black metal. And it's been a while. I mean, I still listen to black metal. Let's not go get crazy here, but fall and winter is very much a black metal friendly zone for me, and that chill in the air just got it rolling for me. And I started thinking about some of the classics over the years that I've enjoyed quite a bit, and found that don't get a lot of love on the metal YouTube realm, which is unfortunate. Some of these I'm going to show off are not rare. Some are, maybe. Some you've heard of, some you have not, but these are all albums or releases that I have enjoyed over the years, and they're often overlooked, and I really think it's a shame because there's some good stuff here, and I just wanted to tell you about a stack of CDs. This is a good way to get into my CD collection without necessarily going through each and every one of them. So expect more theme-oriented videos as we trudge onward into the cold blast that is coming, that is 2020's death knell, hopefully. But anyway, I want to talk about some black metal, and first up is a Swedish band, Algaion. They've put out a handful of albums over the years. They started in the 90s, and I forgot to write down, I have notes. Hey, I've got notes this time. But I did not get into that on this band. But I mainly wanted to talk about the mini LP Vox Clamentis. But you can't mention that without talking about their debut Oimai, Algeiou. This is on Full Moon Productions back in the day. This is a very much heavily melodic black metal opus, and this is drum machine driven, which is probably the one detriment to this album, just because it is so very much prominent in the mix. And one thing about this album is it is kind of lengthy. It kind of drags on for a ways, but it does not take away from the fact that the songs on this are good. Martin, the vocalist, this is at the time of this, I think it was just a two-piece. I could be wrong there. Let's take a look, see if there's any band photos. Yeah, just two guys. Are these guys Greek? I'm pretty sure they're Swedish. Yeah, Fredrik Soderlund, guest member. Wasn't he the guy that did Octinomos on the Demiurge and Fuckhole Armageddon was the name of one of his albums? Anyway, and also in the band from the band Puissance. Did I say that? Anyway, this is a good album. Drags on a little bit, drum machine driven. They very much streamlined the process on Vox Clamentis. This has Peter Tegren from Hypocrisy fame, Pain fame on drums. It took the supercharged, super melodic stance of their first album and gave it a Marduk kick in the ass. A lot of blasts. Peter's a great drummer, and he crushes on this. Martin's vocals are insane. They're really good. Where's Peter? Eat a sandwich, damn it. Superior, cold, melodic, twisted, fast black metal, Vox Clamentis. If you have not found this anywhere, definitely check it out. This came out on Wounded Love Records. This is an OG press. Next up, it's going to take me a minute to get into this here. Got a lot of stuff to say about a lot of these records, and I just want to make sure I do it concisely without rambling on too much. This is, as far as DSBM goes, this is probably should be the forefather of the scene, even though this isn't what it influenced, if that makes any sense. But this is one of the most depressing albums I may own as far as the metal genre goes. And this is Bethlehem's. Okay. Sardonischer, Untergang, Zeichen, Irreligiöser, Darbietung. But they call it suicide for short, an acronym. This is German dark metal, suicidal metal at its finest. Their first album, Dark Metal, was really good. They had a different singer, Landferman. Landferman was his name. And he had a super strange, crazy vocal style. On this, he is not on this album. They employed 2 singers to replace him, and they exponentially bumped up the craziness. They have Marco Karen from Deinonychus and a lady named Catherine, who share the vocal responsibilities. I think a lot of her stuff was spoken word, but there are some screams. The screams on this are just unhinged. These unhinged, off-putting, off-centered, desperate-sounding screams, mixed in contrast with super depressive, simplistic guitar lines. The guitar lines weep, if that makes any sense, if that's even possible. But just these lilting, super sad fucking guitar lines, harmonies. This is a monster album, and out of all their albums, this is the only one I listen to on a regular basis. It's been a while since I put on, because I don't really want to go where this album puts me in that headspace right now. But man, there's been years and years and years I've obsessed over this album. It is so good, and it is so mournful, so downtrodden and miserable, but it maintains a dark metal / black metal / slight doom twist. It's a fantastic album, and check out Bethlehem Suicide. You're definitely going to see where the DSBM nods in appreciation, but has never really gotten to this level of woe, if that makes any sense. Next up on a similar tip, this is Deinonychus, The Silence of December. This is Marco Karen. This came out in 1995 on Cacophonous Records, OG press of this. I remember getting this, maybe got this as a promo. I don't remember, but either way, it stumbled into my life, and at the time, I don't know how ready I was to absorb it. It was kind of off-putting, but the more I spun it, this is a fantastic black metal album, and I think Marco was the sole member of this band at this time. It was just him. I don't know. There's one of the guys from Occult is singing on this too. It looks like it does some backup vocals, but this is, oh my god, super chainsaw guitar sound. The guitar sound is just like a chainsaw sound. It's super grating. Marco's vocals are very gnarly, high register traditional black metal scream with kind of a burzum-y, high-pitched orc cry on top of it. It's kind of like really interesting. It's an interesting vocal style. And it's mostly plodding straight ahead, old school black metal. I mean, it's definitely 95. It's in the second wave heyday, mixed with a lot of depression and some really dreary synth textures thrown in on top of it. This is one I've returned. I mean, a lot of stuff in the Deinonychus catalog is good, really good. In fact, there's some really great albums in it. And as it seems like after he did the suicide sessions, Deinonychus kind of adapted that really super depressive style. But on this album, it's clinging more to the second wave black metal tradition, but you can tell there's some dreariness seeping in. There's some sadness. Some spoken word stuff is kind of cheesy, but it passes and it gets right back into the super harsh, gnarly vocals. And fantastic album. I don't know how easy this is to find. I don't know if it's ever been reissued, but The Silence of December, good shit. Next up, these two, this one, the first album in particular, is probably one of my favorite Norwegian black metal albums, and it seems like I'm the only one that ever talks about it, but oh well, you're going to hear it again. But this is Hades, Again Shall Be, and because I'm showing this, I had to show off this one as well, The Dawn of the Dying Sun. These are two, as far as I'm concerned, second wave Norwegian black metal classics. Again Shall Be in particular, it's mid-paced, very triumphant sounding, very mystical sounding, very much very Norwegian sounding, but they never really blast. It's always a mid-paced crawl that kind of dictates a bit of a Bathory influence, Viking Bathory influence, but they never dip into those super in key harmonies that Bathory would sometimes do on the Viking era. But it's just it like maintains a very Norwegian black metal aesthetic, and these songs are all completely perfectly crafted. I mean, this is a great album. This is on Full Moon Productions. This came out in, I don't know if I can see in this lighting in here. I should have wrote that down, but I did not. This is a mid-90s release. Absolutely essential Norwegian black metal. If you can track down a copy of this, definitely get it. They followed it up with there's a bit more, I want to say, dynamics on here, a little bit more structural variety in the songwriting, but it's still very much a perfect follow-up to Again Shall Be. Powerful harmonies, completely epic movement in the song structures. This is a great album as well, and this band continued onward. They put out Millennium Nocturne, which is also good. They kind of started to lose a little bit of their that thing that made them special, and then they put out the Pulse of Decay. At one point, they had to change their name to Hades Almighty because they were sued by a cease and desist from the East Coast thrashy Hades that was on Metal Blade. Anyway, check out Hades. You won't be disappointed. Up next is the Swedish band Morker. This is Hostmakter. This is a Northern Silence release. This came out in 2008. I had to review this, I think, for Metal Maniacs, and it was just a random grab, and I gotta say, I was quite impressed with it. It is, on the surface, very much a standard black metal affair of the Scandinavian variety, but the second song, Segertag, very, very much Dimmu Borgir inspired Stormblast era. Very airy and melodic synth work. Interacts with the black metal to produce a very otherworldly escape with the synth sounds. Very much a high atmosphere album mixed with standard, well done, second wave focused black metal. I think this band only put out 2 or 3 albums. This is their last album. They put out another full length and a couple splits, I believe. But definitely, if you're into super melodic Scandinavian black metal with the occasional tip of the hat to Dimmu Borgir, definitely check these guys out. It's a CD that I went in cold on, had to review it for Metal Maniacs, and ended up really enjoying it. Next up is a great one. This is the first album by Morrigan. This is Plague, Waste, and Death. This came out on Barbarian Wrath. And what to say about this? This band was initially Mayhemic Truth was their name. This album came out in 2001. They are a two-piece, a drummer and a guitar player slash singer. Belier is the guy's name. His vocals are crazy, super crazy. This is very much a ferocious black metal attack mixed with Viking metal era battery. Only in music form, not in the vocals. The vocals never go clean. Belier's vocals are very much teetering on the brink of unstable. I mean, he sounds like he's crazy. But for a two-piece, these guys have written some incredibly memorable, powerful black metal with a definite tip. These guys are German as well, with very much a nod to the battery way of thinking when it comes to the Viking era. And that slower dynamic, that plodding, slower, triumphant dynamic gives these songs a lot of power and feeling. Definitely a good song. Plague, Waste, and Death. And these guys put out how many albums afterwards? I don't remember, but as they went, they tend to embrace even more of that Viking era battery. But definitely check that out. I know Matt showed this recently on his channel on The Dark Path. Definitely check out The Dark Path. This is a classic. This is Mysticum in the Streams of Inferno. This came out in 95 on Full Moon Productions, OG Press. Got it when it came out. This is taking the absolute blizzard cold feeling of Norwegian black metal and mixing it with an industrial backbone. These guys use a drum machine and are not ashamed to do so, and they accentuate the fact, they revel in the fact that they have a drum machine. I think Hellhammer played with these guys for a minute, but I don't think it made sense to them. So this album is just a churning shot of Arctic cold, to be completely honest. And pro drugs. Don't control drugs, let them control you. Okay. These guys split up for a while, got back together, and they put out the album Planet Satan, which is very much this super cold, ice accumulating Norwegian black metal mixed with straight up EDM influence. This is not that. This is very much Norwegian black metal with just a cold spine of the fucking drum machine pushing this frigid attack. Super harsh, cryptic vocals. Great band. This was a great album. Next up is, this is so good. All three of the Nagelfar albums are fantastic, and this is not the Swedish Nagelfar. This is the German Nagelfar with an E. This is what's the name of this? Srontgorrth. And this album is amazing. There is, I think, the second song where there is a furious bass break that introduces a very strong transition and dynamic shift. It's just, I hear it, eyes roll back in my head, clenched fists, so fucking good. And this band was driven by Alexander von Meilenwald, who went on to form the band Ruins of Beverast. He was the drummer in this band. I think Ruins of Beverast, he wrote everything, did everything. This is a band. There's like three dudes. One of the other guys was in a handful of other bands that you don't know, I've never heard of. And then the one guy was in the band Graven and Enstill. Went on to do those bands. But this very much sounds like a more turbocharged, more ferocious version of Ruins of Beverast. So, which tells me Alexander is listed as the drummer on this stuff, had more of a hand in songwriting, because it's still, if you put this out now and put Ruins of Beverast on, I'd believe you. The first album is great, a little more traditional black metal influence. This, they started to get more nightmarish and weird. And the third album, Virus West, is probably my least favorite of the three. But all three are great. There's nothing to complain about. Sorry, my screensaver went on. This is a fantastic album. If you're going to check out Nagelfar with an E, let me see if I can give you something a little better to look at here. Nagelfar. Start with this album first. It is fantastic. Absolutely crushing. Great stuff. This is kind of a weird one. At the time, this was sent in, I think, for a review. It was. Yes, it's got hole punches in it. For Worm Gear back in the day. This came out in 1995. This is a U.S. band. This is Night Conquers Day, the first Snowfall. This is a U.S. band. At the time, it was a two-piece. The guy in corpse paint that looks a little bit like King Diamond's little brother, I think also did the band Tearstained, which had a fair amount of King Diamond falsetto replicating type singing style. On this, he doesn't dip into that so much, but at the time of getting this, initially I probably wanted to call it like bargain bin black metal, just because it has kind of a, there's like, it teeters on the brink of being a thin production. I just put this on to refamiliarize. I remember, but then it clicked with me, and I remember listening to this a lot, and I haven't touched it in years. But I just, when I was going through the stack of thinking of things of that had an impact on me, this is one of those albums, and so I put it on before the video to refresh myself. And man, it's really good. It's really good. The production's a bit on the thin side. Very airy synth lines that stand alone, and also interact really well with the music and help shift the tide of the songwriting into more atmospheric areas. The tremolo, there's the guitar lines shift between tremolo, a lot of tremolo riffs, a lot of speed picking, but there's a grim dissonance that is embraced often, but the guitar lines shift into this expansive melody that plays perfectly well with the synth work. And the guy's singing very harsh, very good. He also does some chanting type stuff. Putting this on after not so many years, I'm definitely going to listen to this again after the whole thing. But I remember listening and liking this a lot. And you should definitely check this out. I don't know how easy this is going to be to find. This is on Hammerheart back in the day. I think Hammerheart was a different label back then. You going to focus? I don't know if it's the same guy, but I mean, Hammerheart's going again. They're kind of focusing on doing a lot of reissues, but this is good U.S. black metal during a time where, you know, black metal in the U.S. was maybe looked down upon and frowned upon by the European and Scandinavian scene, which, you know, whatever, fuck off. But what was I going to say? It's very well done, and it stands on its own, and it was right in that time where it was where everything was happening and exploding. It's very inspired, even though the production is a little bit thin. It's a good album, and I think the album cover, though a bit cheesy, that's an incredibly tall Jawa. It kind of matches the feel, I think, of the album. Good stuff. Next, oh my god, I love this album. I love this album, and no one ever talks about it. This is Opthalamia with Via Dolorosa. This came out on Century Media, Century Black. This is a supergroup per se. It's got Tony Sarka, is that his name? Who is now deceased, rest in peace. It's got, I think that's, was it Benny Larson, who is a drummer for Edge of Sanity. It's got Emil Nodveit, right there, who is John Nodveit's brother, plays bass on this. He was also in Swordmaster, I believe. And this guy with the spiked Louisville Slugger is Legion from Marduk fame. The Opthalamia had 3 albums. Journey, I can't remember the first album's name off the top of my head. This one, Via Dolorosa, and Dominion was their third and final, which had all on vocals. This is an amazing album. It gets a little long-winded. but it is his name. Was not his... Tony was his name, I believe. It was his evil name. He was a master riff writer, super melodic. In fact, if you were to listen to Obsequii, I would think you would hear a little bit of influence siphoned off of this album that Tanner did. But, which is... Good job, man. But this is an amazing album. It is kind of mid-paced, doomy-ish black metal. Definitely has a medieval feel to the style and movement of the riffs it would write. And Legion's vocals are Legion. I mean, he sounds like Legion from Marduk, but the slower presentation of the music, the more mid-paced plot of this music gives him, I think, room to really get in there and dig deeper into his cancer box in his throat and just heave out some nasty fucking vocals. This is a great album, and if you have not heard it, do yourself a favor and check out Via Dolorosa. You will love it. If you can get past the length of the album and just let the endless riff. This is like a riff bonanza right here. I mean, the riffs are so good. So much melody coming from that thing. This is a band I have never heard anyone talk about, and I haven't listened to this in a long time until this evening. But I remember when I got this in for a promo from Nocturnal Music back in the day, back in 1998. I was pretty impressed with this. This is a 3-song EP. This is Obscure Thoughts by Italy's Opus Malefici. Obscure Thoughts. This band started in 96. They had a 96 promo demo, and they put this mini CD out in 98. And there are 3 songs on this. What sets this band apart? The fact that they write very solid second wave inspired black metal. Very competent, a lot of interesting shifts in melody, a lot of interesting shift in dynamics. The songs are interesting. The thing that sets them apart is they opted for a more brutal vocal performance. I'm not saying it's straight up death metal, but it's maybe more first wave black metal inspired, where it's maybe a little deeper down the gut coming from that spot than the typical harsh screams. But no one ever talks about this. It was probably not very well distributed, and it probably didn't get any traction because it's just a 3-song EP, but I remember really enjoying this, and listening to it today, I was reminded how good it is, even though it's not anything groundbreaking, earth-shattering. It's worth a listen, and the more you listen to it, I think you're going to like it. If you can adapt, if you can take that deeper vocal style, it really does fit pretty well with this music. Next up, this came out in 1998, and everybody talks about Judas Iscariot for good reason. Andrew Harris wrote a lot of great songs, put out a lot of great albums, and his first band before Judas Iscariot hit was Sarcophagus, and they started off as a death metal band. I saw them live once. They were really great, to be honest with you. Actually, I've seen this band twice, once when they were death metal and once when they were black metal. And this album is great. This is Requiem to the Death of Passion, and this is one of the CDs that got rocked in the plumbing issue I had. Never, if you're going to put your, public service announcement, if you're going to put your music in your basement, do not put it underneath pipes. I knew it when I put the CD racks there. I knew that eventually someday there was going to be an issue, but it was the only place I had, the only free wall to put stuff. I had to put my CD racks there, and sure enough, there was a plumbing issue one day, and I had a nice cascading waterfall down 1/3 of one of my racks, and it fucked up some classics, some original pressing stuff, and well, what are you going to do? CDs still play, and anyway, back to Sarcophagus, Requiem to the Death of Passion. What sets this apart from Judas Iscariot? To be honest, This is more in line with Judas Iscariot's To Embrace the Corpse's Bleeding. I think Judas Iscariot initially was more of a barbaric, stripped down, simplistic take on black metal. U.S. interpretation of European black metal. And this album is, and as Judas Iscariot progressed, Andrew employed the drum talents of Dwayne Timlin, who was the drummer in Sarcophagus. And this band also features Marcus Kolar, who went on to be Enforced of Impaled and Commandant. This is a great album. It's really well written. This came out on Nightfall Records, which I think was Don Decker's label. It was a record store, I do believe. This is a great album, really well written, super aggressive, adrenaline fueled, intricate blast beats. Dwayne was a very skilled speed drummer, and it really, his inclusion with Judas Iscariot really propelled that material to, I don't know if Andrew, I think Andrew was fine with the sloppy drums of the early Judas Iscariot, but there was just a cohesion when Dwayne was in the band. And that's here. He just propels this material. It's so good. Such fierce U.S. black metal. Do I have anything else to say about this? No. 1998, good shit. Check out Sarcophagus, Requiem to the Death of Passion. Next up is a Canadian entity called Sig Artir. This album came out in 2008. This is Beyond the North Winds. When this came out, I listened to this album probably 1 million times. Interviewed him for Wormgear. This guy, at this point in the game, this guy did all the instruments himself. He is a very accomplished, classically trained guitar player. He's a shredder. You can tell he came from the Yngwie school of influence. He writes, Sig Artir is very much influenced by Viking-era Bathory, and the plotting, atmospheric nature of songs like Beyond the North Winds, King of the World. It is just, and the way he's kind of like a speaking, shouting, screaming type of style. Very passionate sounding and well produced. The drum machine, kind of a bother, but it still works. Beyond the North Winds. Anything else I want to say? He did not take on members to add to the band until 2012, and I think God Saga is the last thing I had by them. This is very much influenced by Vikings and heathenism, and this is a great album. If you're into Horthon meets Yngwie, that's pretty much the description you need. This is a great album. This is another one. Skyforger, I think they're from Latvia. This came out in 1998. This is Kalia Pi Solace. This is by far the band's best album. This and their demo, Semigul's War Chant. There is a grimness to the vocalist on the demo and this album that is just so fucking good. He just really digs down deep in the throat and just sounds so nasty, mixed with this fast, melodic, pulsing, well-written, engaging black metal. This is a fantastic album. They went on to sign to Metal Blade, and they got a little weirder. I think after this album, they put out Latvian Rifleman. The vocalist, I want to say it's the same vocalist, Peter. He stopped doing the deep, throaty, nasty screams and started doing more of a shouting style, and I didn't like it. The music still sounded good, but man, this album and their demo is fucking great. Absolutely great black metal. Definitely check it out. This is Tolka with Natsted Sir Porten Vid. Came out in 1999. This is Norwegian black metal. This is one of the few Norwegian bands that came in maybe towards the end of the craze of the second wave of Norwegian black metal, but as they progressed, they got just as good. They maintained a level of quality throughout all the releases, and sole creator of this band, Host, he stayed true to the Norwegian black metal sound, whereas a lot of bands from Norway would go, they went either weird electronics or they went sterile, kind of turbocharged death metal. Zyklon, I'm looking at you. But Host told the line. He did some stupid shit in Germany, which got him in trouble. I mean, rightfully fucking so. But man, Tulka, I think it's pronounced Tulka, maintained a level of quality. This has got some really, I think out of all of his albums, this one's got the most passionate, moving harmonies and atmosphere. This is just a great album. Check it out. I'm sure you probably have already heard it and spent too much for it online. This is a CDR. I've never owned this and a proper copy of this, but I always like this album. I think these guys are Swedish. Did not write that down, but this came out in 1995. This is Throne of Oz with Niflheim. Pretty much they put out two albums and a demo. And what makes this notable is the fact that it's barbaric, but they mix, a Swedish black metal feel with it. Whereas a lot of this is more barbaric. I think because there's a lot of there's some speed on this album, but there's a lot of mid-pace feel, plod to it. So that allows the Swedish melodies to take on a different shape, whereas bands in the black metal scene in Sweden tend to, focus on the tremolo style harmonies. This is a good album. I can't say that I ever heard their second one. This was always good enough for me. I mean, obviously, it's just a shitty CDR from Circuit City. But good stuff. I would recommend checking this out. Maybe not hunting it down. Give it a listen before you do so. But I've always liked that album. Two more and I'll shut up. This one, I mean, this is an amazing album. This is probably the best thing, one of the best things Norway produced as far as black metal goes. And this is Arntor by Winder. Wow. I mean, this came as a promo to me when it came out. And did I write down a date? I did not. This is Head Not Found, Voices of Wonder, collaboration. This album is fucking amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Taking Norwegian black metal and supercharging it with these soaring folk harmonies. It is, and then Valfar's vocals are just so scathing and just such well-written and passionate music on this album. And, all of his albums are good. The one that came before this, a little less folky, but just really great Norwegian black metal. This really took a folky turn, and it really propelled this material over the top. Why more people aren't talking about this stuff, why this shit hasn't come out on vinyl, it's kind of sad. I kind of wish it would. I would buy all their shit on vinyl, and 2 copies of this because black metal tractors. Great album. Do yourself a favor. If you have not heard Arntor, definitely get this album. Straight up. Last one. This one is rarely discussed, and this album fucking rules. This is the second Ring of Power by Unholy. This is by Finland's Unholy. This came out in 1994. Perhaps because they're Finns, that amplifies the weirdness of this album. But it is a very strange blackened doom release. Serious personality disturbance and deep anxiety. I think that fairly well sums up this album. Super depressive, super interesting, super deep. The vocals are harsh and twisted and cool. Not cool like Fonzie cool, but just unique. I mean, so unique. All this band's from the demo to their last album, Rapture? Or was it Crestfallen? I think Rapture was the last album. They got a little more gothy as they went on, but they maintained this weird Finnish Black and Doom feel throughout. They just mixed more of a goth sensibility to it as they went. Added some lady vocals as they went as well. And man, this fucking rules. It's such a great album. And the fact that no one discusses it, it's kind of sad. This came out on... this is a reissue, I think. I think the original came out on Avant-Garde. Yep, 1994 Avant-Garde Music. This is Nuclear Blast. Absolutely twisted, weird, Finnish Doom, Blackened Doom, whatever you want to call it. This is a great album. All their shit's good. But start with this. Second Ring of Power. Definitely start here. So good. But I rambled on for how long? Let's see here. 40 minutes. Wow, sorry. But hopefully I may have opened the door and showed you a few albums that you may have not heard of before. And let's talk about these. I'll maybe in the description I will put a list this time, because there's some shit here you should definitely reference and check out and maybe expand your horizon a little bit by way of the dark arts. But thanks so much for watching. I hope you're all doing well. Cheers.